On this week's podcast, we're talking wild turkey and recapping everything from the NWTF last week. The convention was unbelievable. We had a fantastic time, and most importantly, we got to celebrate a GOAT, Mark Drury, inducted into yet another Hall of Fame, 3-timer now. Check out the podcast this week, and I got a few bad takes along the way. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. All that stuff goes a long way, and I think you'll enjoy this week's show. Welcome back to another edition of the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild Podcast, brought to you by DeerCast, powered by DeerCast. And if you haven't been in DeerCast in a while, I implore you to go check it out. Make sure your app is updated. There's all kinds of new map imagery. There's all kinds of new layers, stealth cam, Command Pro layer. I know there's public land layers. There's all kinds of good stuff. So it's only going to get better and better. I've had the luxury of being in the meetings and the kind of what's new, what's on the roadmap, and we're working on some really, really cool stuff for 2025. So go check it out. While I'm on that topic, before I kind of dive into the show, I do want to mention one thing. Like, you know, this show, it helps us tremendously with sponsors. If you're supporting our sponsors like DeerCast, but First Form, DeerCast, you know, Stealth Cam, all these sponsors. I know at Drury Outdoors, it feels like we probably feels like we have a million of them, but for the podcast, it's different. You know, there's only a good 5, 10 sponsors, PH Outdoors, those types of things. And your support of their products goes a long way. And, letting the sponsor know that our voice is being heard and we're talking about their products. So along those same lines, please give us go rate the podcast wherever you subscribe or watch. Make sure you subscribe, share it with your friends. All those things go a long, long way, and we really appreciate it. All right, so first up, I want to talk about the NWTF. We had a heck of a experience over the weekend. NWTF every year, you know, anybody that follows turkey hunting, you know, I know a lot of people listen to this because of the whitetail stuff, but turkey hunting is where we got our start, right? So, 1988, 1989, Mark and Terry, they launched their first 2 VHS titles, King of the Spring and Sound of the Spring, back in the late 80s. And that was also in conjunction with the time frame where Mark was competitive turkey calling. He shortly after that, he started representing and repping Mossy Oak Camouflage all over the Midwest, and one of their sales guys. But in general, he was doing that competitive turkey calling circuit, and he was just killing it. And as a young guy, I think he started in his teens, but in his 20s, he really won a lot of competitions. In fact, he's won over 150 state, local, and regional titles. He was the 1992 World Senior title with 5 other World Contest Championships coming after that. So a 6-time World Senior Champion. He's a 3-time World Natural Voice Champion, first being in 1989. So I don't think most people know some of those facts, because you follow us today, the big thing's whitetails, right? It's all about deer hunting and land management and growing giant whitetails. And of course, through the mid 90s and then obviously in the 2000s, we really hit our stride, and that's kind of what we're known for. But our roots, and especially Mark's roots, are in the turkey in the turkey world. So NWTF, he's there every year. It's been a couple of years since I've been down there, and same for Terry and Taylor, but Mark's there every year. And, that's a brotherhood for him and kind of a fraternity, so to speak. And he really was one of the guys that helped, promote and usher it through, the 90s and 2000s. But I want to talk about in general the NWTF Convention, which is in Nashville every year, or it has been for the last, quite a few years. I've been probably going 20 something years, and it's always been in Nashville since I've been going. And it's amazing what the NWTF as an organization has done the last, just since, it's always been big, but since the pandemic, it's grown to unbelievable heights. I think last year they set a record in 2024 for 72,000 people attended the convention. And by all accounts, I mean, it's too early to tell for sure, but I thought I was hearing there was 75,000 this past week in 2025. So, shattered the record again. And I think the last time I went, it was 2020. So it would have been February 2020 before COVID hit. And then I hadn't gone back for a few years. And it was always well attended, but it's just unbelievable. Like, you can't hardly move on Saturday. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's just, the Opryland in general is it's a special place. So they if you've never been to the Opryland or know what it is, it's a gigantic hotel and convention center, and it's a city. Basically, it's a city indoors. And so there's nightlife and restaurants and, everything you could think of, ballrooms for the conventions. And there's a big convention hall. And the NWTF does a phenomenal job of putting this on. And the amount of people that attend, it's a testament to, I think, the popularity of turkey hunting. I guess the passion of turkey hunting. So if you look at the numbers, most people in the industry know this, that there's about 3 million or so turkey hunters. There's, anywhere between 12 and 15 million deer hunters. And so the popularity, obviously, of big game is so much more. But to find a show where you see like the Iowa Deer Classic, or, there's those types of regional or state whitetail shows that are obviously big, but you don't see like a concerted effort for one weekend where all deer hunters go to one spot, right? And NWTF is that way for turkey hunters. I think it speaks to the passion that turkey hunting, or the hold that turkey hunting has on a hunter. Once you've experienced that gobble for the first time, you're sitting in the hardwoods in spring morning and you hear that spitting and drumming, or you hear a gobble for the very first time, and it rattles your chest, and I've talked to a lot of people that, haven't experienced spring turkey hunting, or maybe they went and they didn't have any luck, or they didn't hear any birds. Maybe there weren't any birds where they were at. And so they have a much different experience or feeling about it. But I've had the chance to experience some phenomenal spring turkey days with some excellent and phenomenal callers. Mark obviously being one, but Terry's also a great caller. The Chris Comstocks of the world. The even at this point, listening to Forrest and Wade and Perry, and the kind of that next generation inside the Drury team. Jared's a great caller. So when you get to hunt with guys like that and you experience it for yourself, Aaron Bennett, it's amazing what they can get a turkey to do. And when they're firing on all cylinders, anybody listening that's experienced this can understand. It's just different. It's different than deer hunting. So I'm kind of getting long-winded on it, but that it circles back to the point of how special the NWTF convention, the national convention, is. And of course, there's local banquets all over the country that help support and fund, research and conservation efforts and all kinds of things at the NWTF. But the biggest one here is NWTF. And forgive me, because I did a lot of talking over the last 4 or 5 days and shaking a lot of hands and meeting a lot of people, and got to meet a lot of folks that listen to the podcast, which I really enjoyed, and I appreciate everybody coming up and saying hi and shaking my hand and just saying what they love about the podcast. So I really appreciate that. But my voice failed me by Saturday, so I'm still kind of recovering here. This segment of 100% Wild is brought to you by Stealth Cam. Check out the Revolver and Revolver 360 Pro cell cams, as well as all the other flagship models at stealthcam.com. So one of the things that I think we need to watch out for, and this is something that you see criticized a little bit, like most people inside the fraternity, the turkey hunting fraternity, are going to say, hey, the attendance is great. That's a great thing for the NWTF, for turkeys in general, for conservation efforts. Obviously, like, this is just a gigantic fundraiser, and that's good for the overall goal. But I heard somebody say, yet turkeys are in decline, and I don't know exactly how true that statement is. I know we went through a decline period, and just here in the state of Missouri, you can look at the yearly harvest numbers and see there was some down years, but it seems like we've continued to bounce back. We've had some great hatches, and I think people are starting to get wise to the things that need to be done to make sure that we have habitat, for our turkeys. We have predator control for turkeys. And I think people are kind of getting wise to that and getting aggressive and making sure it's like, okay, I love turkey hunting. I love killing them, but I got to work to make sure they're around so that we do have them to hunt and that our kids and their kids have them to hunt. So, one of the things that I think we got there probably I think some of the detractors of all of these new folks coming into turkey hunting are saying is like, hey, if the population's struggling already, what are we going to do when we have recruited all these new people to come in? Or is it only going to get worse? Are all these people coming in for the right reasons? Do they know about the struggles of yesteryear? I think about last year's Mossy Oak launched The Colonel and the Fox. And if you haven't watched it and you're a fan of turkeys and turkey hunting or conservation in general, you should go over to Mossy Oak's YouTube channel and type in The Colonel and the Fox. And it's a real history lesson on the struggles that I guess it'd be like my grandpa and that generation, so the greatest generation, they come home from war and the efforts that they put in to make sure that we had a wild turkey population to hunt. And I think the education side of it is where we need to be mindful of, because one of the guys in here, producer Jordan, he kind of put this question out there. He says, is there a risk of diluting the core mission of conservation with an influx of new blood? Are those, and I kind of add to it, okay, are those that are coming in doing it for the right reasons, keeping ethics and morals at top of mind? And I think that's what the detractors would say is like, okay, it's great, a bunch of people are coming in. Are they killing for content? Which we've been, by the way, I'm not naive enough to think that we haven't been criticized for that same thing. But what they don't see are all the conservation efforts, behind the scenes, the things that we do to help raise dollars, the banquets that we support, just in general, the efforts that Mark and Terry, Wade, Perry, Force, those guys are putting in on their farms, the way we try to talk about it on our digital platforms and Deercast, the articles that we do. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And of course, yes, at the end of the day, the viewers at home like to see the killing side. They'd like to see, of course, for us, it's the information. How did we kill them? What can you sit there and watch and learn? Not in every video do you get that, but we try to, try to do that as much as we can. But I think the real thing is, as these new folks get into hunting, we got to make sure that that's top of mind for them, or that they understand like this isn't necessarily a renewable resource because it can go extinct, right? And I don't think that'll happen in today's modern era of conservation, but it could, say something catastrophic happens and we're killing them at high rates, and then, something, not to say that it crosses over to this, but something like a bird flu or, something crazy like that would evolve into the avian species is not unheard of. So, I think that's a good point. It's a fair point. And I think that each of us, as we go out there in the spring, we need to keep in mind as we're posting stuff on social media that there are a lot of people watching, a lot of young people watching. Maybe it's their first time hunting. Maybe they're learning how to hunt. So let's just do it in a respectable fashion. I know, like, for instance, reaping is a super hot topic for, I look at it like, it seems like a lot of the guys in the South are traditionalists. And somewhere along the line, like the guys in the South kind of said, okay, hey, like reaping's not acceptable. It's like, okay, well, I didn't know, I don't really, I think I've tried it once, not much luck, but I know some of our guys have done it and a lot of guys love it and have a really fun experience doing it. But okay, if you're saying that's an unfair advantage or it emits a natural reaction from the longbeard and they can't help but, come from 400 yards into 20, okay, it's not fair. All right, well, maybe that's something we need to look at as a group. And I know like South Carolina, I thought I just saw that they banned it. They banned reaping in general in the state. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive I just saw that. And I see guys that are like, hey, about time we need to do it across all the states. I get it on public land too, especially. It's a dangerous thing. Like I remember growing up and at that time in the late 80s, early 90s, Mark and Terry's, they're creating these videos. It might have been Sound of the Spring. They had a whole piece on just like the kind of colors that you wear in the woods, right? So like don't, go mushroom hunting and wear a red and blue flannel, for instance, colors of the wild turkey and identifying your target and all those types of things. I mean, we did a whole section on, I'm pretty sure it was Sound of the Spring, which you could find on our Drury Outdoors YouTube Classics page right now. You can find all those old VHS titles. But, it's like, all right, so if we got all these new hunters, we need to keep that in mind. We need to continue to help teach them, because the reality is like the things that are getting the likes and the clicks and the views on social media typically are things like reaping, where it's like in your face, it's crazy, and once it's like a dopamine hit, I think, for influencers. It's like, oh, this got a really big reaction, so now I'm just going to do all these videos. Well, maybe the videos that we need to focus on, they won't get as many views, but okay, what'd you do for habitat improvement? What are you doing for predator control? What are the other things, burns on your piece, all those types of things, maybe that's something that we need to put a little more effort into as well. And also maybe look into our own selves as like, okay, am I just following, Ben mentioned a little bit ago internally here. He said, hey, it really seems like NWTF pushes the younger females in this industry. And he's right, but they get the most views, and it's not that hard to see why. I mean, when you have a male dominated industry, our sport or whatever you want to call it, pastime, when you have female influencers, and these girls are young and pretty, and by the way, a lot of them are killers, really good at hunting, the Sydney Wells, the Maggie Williams, the Taylors of the world, like that, they bring something else to the table, the Macy Watkins. So it's not only that they're good at creating content, which is that generation, right? They're really good at creating content and making hunting fun, but they're also pretty and they know what they're doing. And so they're going to get a lot of views. So I understand why NWTF or our industry in general pushes that out there a little bit, because you could have, name any guy influencer that just knows their stuff, inside and out, and they're great communicators, and, they're good on social media. The views aren't even close, what is it, 10-1 girls versus guys. It's 10-1 followers. I mean, it's just the reality of it. So, okay, that's our reality. What are we going to do about it? Well, the Hannah Barons of the world, they do a decent job of talking about conservation and habitat. So if they can continue to teach and do what they're doing, but, keep it in mind, like, okay, not just the entertaining side, but also the informative conservation side, we'll be just fine. It's not, I think our industry is so serious all the time. And that is kind of the annoying part about it. And I've seen it, I've been here 22 years, been around it my whole life. And I've, read the emails that come through or read the comments now on social media. It's like, God, it's so serious. Everything's so serious. You can have fun. Hunting can be fun. Like the best parts of hunting, I think, are being in camp with your group of buddies. I think back of deer season, this year. Somebody commented on story that I put up of us scoring my buddy Aaron's deer. It's like, come on, it can't be just about the inches and the size of the deer. It's like, well, no, but that's part of what we like to do. That's the fun part for us, you know? And by the way, who are you to tell us it's not how we have fun? So I don't know. I've rambled a little bit about it, but you know, just something I wanted to mention and talk about. It's kind of my hot take for the day, or the bad take, I guess you should say. But, you know, overall, the sport's in good condition. I think we got to continue to work to make sure it stays in good condition, and that the younger generation understands why these turkeys are here for them to chase. If we can do that and put an emphasis on that and make sure they understand it, I think we'll be just fine. Okay, so NWTF in general, it's a really fun time. Not to mention, you know, I think there's like 400 exhibitors. You know, there's all kinds of cool products. By the way, it's a sea of bottomland. It's awesome to see. Mossy Oak owns the turkey world and conservation world, and this just in general. I think, you know, you see a lot of Sitka and you see a lot of QU and all these other things. You see a lot of that out west. You see a lot of that out of like bigger kind of like, I don't know, wealthier hunters, if that's a nice way to put it, waterfowl guys. But turkey hunting, bottomland owns the day. And on that note, Mossy Oak had a huge party. What night was that? It was Friday night, and it was called Pour One for the Polts. And open to the public. Anybody could come. It was at Luke Combs' new bar downtown Nashville called Category 10. And let me tell you, this was quite the experience. I don't know what their attendance was. I mean, had to be several thousand people. The line to get in was out the door, down the street the entire night. It was 3 floors. You get into the bar. It's 3 floors, like a real open. You can kind of look down on the stage. They had a band playing, and it was just a really, really cool experience. A lot of industry people, but just a lot of people. So I want to shout out to Mossy Oak. That was all in the name of conservation, and all the proceeds are going to you know, the wild turkey and making sure that they're there forever for us. So Mossy Oak pretty much leads the way in conservation efforts, and I wanted to give them a shout out. I had a chance to attend a few other parties while we were there, and went to a Riley Green. His bar's called Riley Green's Duck Blind. It was kind of an industry party. Got to see some friends there. It was fun. But the Mossy Oak one was definitely the highlight. And then in general, the real highlight of the weekend, Mark was inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Grand National Calling Championship. And that was such a special moment. We had a lot of Drury Outdoors team members that came down. Of course, our family, my wife Miranda came, mom and dad were there, Tracy, obviously, Mark, and Taylor and Austin. So Jared came down for a little bit Saturday, Jared Lurk. So it was just great to get to see years of hard work be celebrated. I already listed off some of Mark's accomplishments. But one thing I did want to talk about was some of the highlights of his speech. And if you get a chance, you could go to our Facebook page. We went live during it. And you can see it there, or you could see it probably an even better, like a kind of a edited version, so to speak, over on NWTF's page. Go there. They went live. And, you know, Ernie Calandrelli was also inducted, who's been a longtime friend of ours. Paul Butsky is the one that inducted him, and Chris Kirby. It was really, really cool. Terry inducted Mark, fittingly so, and the speeches were just great. So I would implore you to go check them out. Here's a couple of the highlights that I thought were worth mentioning. So, of course, you know, Mark and Terry, they're great at, they've always said it's about, well, here, I'll just read the quote. And Mark's talking about when they got started, one of the kind of the lane that we fit into was make it about them, not us, make it about the game, not the person. And that's kind of been our motto all along, whether it was deer hunting, turkey hunting, or anything in general. And I think that's what's resonated with the audience over the years. We make it about them, not us. We make it about the game, not the person. And I thought that was worth noting here. So I'm going to just read through some of these because they're all noteworthy. Mark says, there's a balancing act and lifelong dues that we all owe in order to sustain nature's most precious resource. I think this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, younger generations coming in, but do they understand, or have they been taught that this is a lifelong due that's owed, so that we still have this resource to hunt? As a group, we must be more interested in keeping them alive than making them dead. Now that's a mouthful right there, because that's the hard part. It's easy. It's one thing to say, I bought a tag, I support conservation. It's another thing to put your words into actions and go do habitat work, which is not easy. That's why I look at guys like Wade, Perry, and Forrest. I mention them a lot, but I know they do a lot of habitat work. And, Mark and Terry did a lot of habitat work for years, and Mark's probably still a little more involved than Terry is. But they've done this stuff for years and years and years, and you see the fruits of your labor when you go out there and you experience a morning when you're hearing 5, 6, 7 longbeards gobbling, on your farm, or you're seeing birds chirping, or you're seeing a pheasant or a quail, or things that, are basically non-existent in our landscape anymore. It means you're doing something right with the habitat. And those are some of those lifelong dues. Give more than we take, an obligation to keep them alive for another day, another memory, another introduction of someone into our coveted fraternity. Hunters are indeed our nation's greatest conservationists. As a group, our work is not finished. We will always do our very best to set an example of stewardship, conservation, family, and respect for the quarry that we seek. And he quoted Rob Keck, who anybody that knows NWTF or knows anything about that convention, Rob Keck is a legend in that world and has raised more money for the wild turkey than anybody. And Rob Keck has a quote. He says, it's not the gobbler, it's the gobble. Well, Mark expanded on that. He says, it's not the, because he's getting in the Hall of Fame for his calling prowess, right? It's not the calling, rather the caller. And I think the point there is and he's kind of alluding to it. It's about the friendships that you're making in hunting. It's about the experiences with friends and family. And I mentioned it earlier. That's why we do it. That's the fun part of hunting. The chase is fun. Don't get me wrong. That chase, and finally when you succeed, well, hell, for some people, maybe not succeeding is as fun as anything, because that means you can continue to chase them for another day, and you learn something, and you take that into your next hunt. And the trials and tribulations make you come back for another round, another go. Another quote: turkey hunters make up hunting's greatest circle. There's no passion like it in the outdoors. Each year we come to Nashville, not for the gobble, but the gobble. Not for the gobbler, but the gobble. Not for the calling, but the callers. It's about the people and the magic we all share together each spring. This is hunting's greatest celebration with hunting's most phenomenal family. So he was honored, humbled, and proud to be a turkey hunter that day and every day. So again, if you get a chance, please go check those videos out. I think the message was spot on, and Mark did a fantastic job of saying what we all feel here at Drury Outdoors. So, all right, that's that. One thing to note, Winchester, one of the cooler things I saw at the show, they launched their Longbeard TSS. So, obviously TSS has been a huge thing that's kind of started to take over. A lot of custom TSS stuff's made out there, but Winchester's finally launched their product, and it's amazing. I got to shoot it last spring. It's amazing how much more, more pellets you get downrange. So 12, this is just for instance, a 12 gauge, you would get over 200 more pellets in a 10-inch circle at 60 yards. A 20 gauge has over 100 more pellets in a 10-inch circle at 60 yards. A 410, 50 more pellets. So, it's one thing to have a product that says, yeah, we get more pellets downrange, but the TSS, the beauty of it, it keeps that pattern a little more constricted all the way downrange. So something to note there, something to check out. All right, cool. Well, I wanted to show a couple more things. One thing, it's kind of our real wild clip for the day, I'd say. Mark, we put together a little video. I can't share the music side because we put it up on social media, and so we were using a music track. I think it was like a re-edit of Gangster's Paradise. So it's really cool. Check it out on our Instagram page. But here I wanted to show you guys the clip here on the podcast, or let you listen to it. It's some of Mark's quotes. It's some of the footage from the early days, and you get to hear Mark's sweet serenade of the wild turkey.
Well, my friends and fellow hunters, I'm Mark Drury.
And I'm Terry Drury. He's the two-time world natural voice champion, going for the third time this year, my brother, Mark Drury.
I always say I like to deer hunt, but love to turkey hunt. It's why we started Drury Outdoors back in 1989, and that fire is still alive inside, and that passion burns brightly.
Always remember to be safe, identify your target, no matter what you're hunting, and good hunting to each and every one of you. Thank you.
The funny part about that, I think that's either the end of King of the Spring or Sound of the Spring. That might be the end of Sound of the Spring. The funny part about that is he walks off set there, or off scene. He turns around right after he says that, and he walks off. It's like a 3-minute shot of Mark just walking off into the woods. We love to, go back and look at that stuff and poke fun at ourselves now, but that old stuff, that old content's just the best. So, congratulations to Mark. Hope to have him on here soon and get his perspectives on it. But what a fun weekend, and really cool to celebrate the wild turkey and celebrate some of the guys that made it such a mainstream activity, here in the year 2025. So, all right. I'm going to skip the question of the day today. It's more of I'd say deer hunting related. I do want to give it a shout out. We got a shout out from Chance Jacobs 9550 over on YouTube. It says, love watching these guys do what they do best. We appreciate it. If you have a shout out, go to your wherever you watch or listen to the podcast and leave us a mark. Like I said earlier in the show, leave us a rating, a review. That stuff goes a long way. We really appreciate it. Make sure you share it with your friends. And then we have a private Facebook group called the Rack Pack. All you got to do is go to Facebook and the search, the little magnifying glass, hit 100% Wild Rack Pack. It'll come up, answer a few questions, and you're in. New members this week, we got David Jesus. Yes, Jesus, Jesus, I don't know. Jack Romans, Bruce Cavett, Stetson Nelden, Ryan Gooding, Andy Clay, Matt White. Appreciate you guys joining us. And if you haven't, please do so, because it's a fun time in there. Especially during the seasons, it's a chance for guys to kind of put in their photos of their deer, their turkey, or whatever, or questions that they may have, habitat questions, whatever it may be. Bunch of guys jump in and answer, and it's just a cool community we built over there. So, all right, closing thoughts. I think I've given you plenty for the day. In closing, I'd say, take somebody hunting this spring if you can. If you're a diehard turkey hunter and maybe you got a friend that's dabbled in it, or they're a whitetail hunter, take them turkey hunting. Let them experience that, and there's no turning back after that. Get your NWTF membership, or Turkeys for Tomorrow. They also do a great job and help support these conservation foundations, and make sure that something we all love doing lives on for another day. That's all I got today. Until next time, appreciate y'all listening. Peace out.
DeerCast is completely updated and better than ever. Prep, predict, and pursue your target buck with our detailed maps, weather, and 14-day movement predictor.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast Maps, waypoints, weather, virtual rain gauges, and more. Every tool you need to get ahead of your game.